Welcome to another episode of the Infinite Returns podcast. Today I have a special guest, Raven Harris.
Very special.
He's in the private equity space. Very interesting to me. So he buys businesses, he buys operating businesses, runs them, makes a ton of money. And, I'm interested in that. So Raven, why don't you introduce yourself and tell them, a little bit about your backstory and how you even got into the space for people that, don't know what, private equity even is and, how it works or anything. So tell them a little bit about that. I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, sure. So a little bit about kind of how I got started is, I guess going back from the beginning, my dad gave me a copy of Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was 13. And so I read that book and I loved it. And what was great about that is I realized that in order for you to make money, you don't need to be a billionaire. You just need to study hard. And to make more money than the average person, it just comes down to increasing your assets and decreasing your liabilities, right? So anything that puts money into your pocket is an asset. Anything that decreases or takes money out of your pocket is a liability. So you want to get as many assets in your life as possible. And so I knew that based off that book that I wanted to get into like real estate and buying stocks. That was like the go-to. I was like, okay, assets that I know about are going to be buying stocks and investing in real estate, becoming like a real estate investor.
Right.
And so as I was realizing after I joined the military, and the reason I joined the military was because I knew that they have a VA program where you could join and then use the VA loan, which is essentially a zero down program where as long as you can afford the monthly mortgage, you don't have to put a down payment, right? And so you get a house for 0% down. So I was like, okay, great. That's my ticket in. I'm going to get a house for 0% down. I'm going to rent it out. I'm going to use the equity, take that out and go buy more houses or just keep refinancing that property. And once I own it, I could refinance it to a commercial loan and then reuse the VA loan to go buy more houses, right? So that was my thought when I was joining in. And so at 21, I bought my first rental property, went well, moved out of the dorms, ended up getting paid by the military to essentially have like a rental stipend, right? So every month they give you like a housing allowance. And so they gave me like this $1,500 a month housing allowance, right? My mortgage was $1,000. And then I had a 4-bedroom house and I was renting 3 of the rooms for about like $750 to $1,000 each, right? So I was making like, what's the math on that? Like $2,500, right? From renting the house, living for free, and then getting paid another $1,500 a month, being in the military, right? From that housing allowance. And so I was like, okay, cool. I'm making extra bread. Like this is a strategy. But even then, like if you actually do the math, I was like, okay, I'm walking away with like $2,000, maybe $3,000 every month in my pocket on top of what I'm getting from the military, which was like, I don't know, like $3,000 a month from just like, getting paid for work, my salary. So $3K a month plus like another $3K for the house and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, $6K a month at 21. It was solid money, right? It was solid money. And so I was like, okay, cool. But I knew that my time in the military was going to end because I didn't want to do it for life. I didn't want to do the full 20 years. And so it was all about the strategy for what I was going to do once I got out. And after I got my first rental property, even though it was cash flowing so much money, I knew that most times when you buy a house, especially with the way the market is, you're only going to cash flow like maybe $200 plus per door, right? Getting $200 a door is considered like
expenses. Yeah, that's like
they consider that a good opportunity,
exactly,
right? So I was like, okay, $200 a door, that's a great opportunity. So I was like, all right, cool. So I'm like, this is obviously not the route that is going to make me a billionaire or put tons of money in my pocket while I'm still in my 20s, right? Because I was 21 at the time, and I'm like, I wanted to get rich in my 20s. I don't want to get rich when I'm 90 years old. So I got to figure out a faster way. And so I remember there was a line in the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where he basically says there was a group of assets that sophisticated buyers buy. And so there's real estate, there's stocks, and other income-producing assets, right? And so that always stuck with me. I was like, what are other income-producing assets, right? What are they? And I went through the whole book again. I was like, what are they? Like, it's nowhere to be found, but there's some other mystic assets that people are talking about that people buy. And I feel like if Robert Kiyosaki would have put in that book, maybe he would have cooked it, right? He would have cooked the play because everyone would have known about it. But if you just did a little bit of thinking, right, and I started doing some research online, what are other assets you can buy that produce income? And I came across the term business acquisition, right? So this is people buying businesses. And I realized, okay, wait a minute. So you're telling me that instead of me working 40 years building up my own company, someone else could have worked the 40 years, and I can essentially walk in as CEO or owner day one, and their 40 years of effort becomes mine overnight. Right. So I was like, okay, this is definitely the strategy. And then I start looking at all the billionaires. I'm like, how are they making all this money? And of course, these guys are all buying businesses. So I was like, okay, whatever they're doing, I just need to copy it and put out my own skills. So then it was up to me to figure out how can I buy or make $1 billion opportunities, but for someone who only has, 50, 100 grand of cash ready to go. So I couldn't buy all of, 50% of Coca-Cola, but maybe I could buy a small business, right? And figure it out from there.
Okay, interesting. So early on, even early on, you're already thinking about investing assets. You buy real estate, you're making cash flow, like good deal. But you're thinking, okay, what's going to take me to the next level?
Yeah.
And what are these billionaires, what are they doing?
Yeah, for sure.
Because they're doing something different. So tell me, okay, so you do this real estate deal, and then you're looking, okay, what is this buying business thing? Business acquisition, okay, great. What is the first thing you do? Now we're going into your buy box. Now you start actually looking for a business to buy. Are you looking at, videos of people like doing it? Okay, this guy's did it. Okay, interesting. Let me try this. How should I target a business? Like, how did that process go, and how did that go to your first acquisition? What did that look like?
Yeah, for sure. So that's a good question. Essentially, the process at the time was, for me, a little bit all over the place, because when I first got started in buying businesses, so this was like 2020. What was it? I don't even know the year it was. So when I first was in 2020, so maybe like 2022.
Okay, yeah.
2023, around that time. From the time I bought my first house, I was 21, and then I studied for like 2 years straight. So that was first off. And they didn't have, like, today, like, I got a YouTube channel.
Yep.
There's podcasts like this out there.
Right.
There's just tons of more information than what there was. 5 years ago, there was no information online, right? For buying businesses.
Even especially buying businesses. So that's even more niche than like some of the other stuff.
Yeah,
out
exactly.
there, real estate and whatnot.
Exactly. And when people do talk about buying companies, they always talk about what everyone else knows. Like, oh, buy a laundromat, buy a car wash, buy a franchise. Like, do you want to buy a Domino's or a Papa John's or something like that? And it's like, those are essentially
public market stuff, pretty
that
kind of
everybody
surface
knows about.
level.
Exactly.
Sure.
So to me, that's like, okay, those are businesses everyone knows, and that's kind of what people think about when they think buy a business. But there's a whole other side to this game, which is actually where the real money's made, which is buying companies that nobody knows about, that print millions of dollars every year, right? Doing niche industry things that is just completely necessary to everyday life. For example, there's a company out there that's making these water bottles, right? So these plastic bottles, they're being manufactured somewhere, right? And so you're not thinking when you're like in middle school and high school, college, like, I'm going to go manufacture plastic water bottles. But there's somebody out there, some company that prints these, and they're making tons of money from this
completely hidden.
Yeah, exactly.
Completely hidden from public view. And that's what private equity, because there's public markets that everyone knows, the Checkers, the Burger King, whatever, Publix.
Yeah.
And then there's the private, and that's what the private equity is essentially, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like, think of like private equity as like, equity is capital and it's private capital. So you're taking money that isn't from the market, right? From either yourself or from a group of investors that a private fund that you put together, and then you go out there and buy businesses with this capital. And so the thing about private equity is that there's tons of different categories of private equity, right? You could have a holdco. You could actually be in a private equity. You could be in a hedge fund, right? You could be different types of investors within the space. You could be a one-off investor. And so not everything fits under private equity, but generally it just means that you buy businesses with other people's funds, right? And so anytime you're using other people's money to buy a business and you have a company around buying multiple businesses, then you're in private equity, right? And so, even if you buy just one business, I wouldn't necessarily categorize that as private equity because sometimes it's more like an independent sponsor or like a search fund, right?
Okay.
And so not to get too complex with it, but there's so many different avenues you could take this. A search fund is like you went to Harvard, and then you have an investment thesis where you're going to go and collect $100 million from these investors.
Just off a thesis.
Off a thesis, right? Like,
interesting.
Your job is, hey, my theory is that there's a specific business in this specific market, which we can go buy 50 of these specific types of companies and put them all in a basket and then sell them off, right? And that's your thesis. Okay, great. Now you're going to take that and go raise capital, right? Now you have, 10, 20, $30 million backing you, and then you're going to go buy $100 million worth of companies over the next 5, 10 years. So the process is very quick. But the thing is, if it's up to you to figure that out, and if you decide to go the search fund route, you're living off your investors' funds for a little bit of time. They usually give you about like
management
50
fee probably in there.
Not really,
or,
actually.
No?
They just give you like 50 or 100K, and they say live off this and go find a deal.
Yeah.
And you have 12 months or 2 years,
Right.
and if you don't get it done
They
within
get
this
the
amount of
capital
time,
back.
they just take their money out. So you got to go out there and find a business. And so I actually don't recommend that route, right? So that's the search fund route. That's like I was at Harvard 2 weeks ago.
Right. Yeah.
I don't recommend that route. Like that's where all the kids from Harvard are doing. They're like, I'm gonna raise capital. I'm gonna go find a business. I'm like, man, what you should do, right, is
because the hard part and the nuts is you go and dig for a great deal, and
Right.
that's what. But then a lot of times maybe the deal finders, they don't have that institutional tie. Which if they did, if you pair someone that's hungry and knows how to find a deal, put a deal together with the institutional funds, that's where I feel like you can get the blow ups, like the real successful types. I think. I mean.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I think that there's big opportunity in that space, but what makes a lot more sense is like just going and getting a deal done is way more important because once you buy your first business, you're like over that hump.
Yeah.
You've proven it. You've started collecting cash flow.
Yep.
You understand the process. So in order to do that, I don't recommend you go out and raise $100 million fund. I recommend you go get $50,000, $100,000 of your own capital, and you go out and you buy a small business, and then you own 100% of it. And that's another thing. These guys from Harvard, they raise these $100 million funds, and then they walk away with like $1 million at the end of like a 5 or 10 year sprint.
Interesting.
Right? And it's
but
like
if they put that together, that's where you're making fucking $30 million or whatever more, like even more, a lot
like
more.
in what way? Like in what way?
Well, I mean, if you pull it off, if you had full ownership, is what I'm saying. If you pull something off like that,
do it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you don't need investors. Like once you buy your first deal, you can use the cash flow from that deal to buy the next one. Right. So like exactly like I talk about the 95-5 method, right? 5% down to get a deal with the SBA. And so if you take, $50K, you turn that into $1 million acquisition. Let's say that business is printing like $300K a year. Well, you just spent $50K to buy the business, and then at the end of year one, after debt, you walk away with like $150K. You just 3 times your money. So now you could go buy 3 more of the same type of business, right?
Right.
And now you have 4 businesses printing you $300K.
Okay. So tell me about the process when you see, let's say you see a business that they want to sell. Okay, great. Tell me about the debt and equity stack and putting that together to actually buy the deal using SBA or however you do it. What's that process like? How early are you setting that up? And then and going under contract and pulling it through, like how does that look like on your end? Like
the full process from like when you have the money in your pocket and you're ready to go out there and get the business done.
Sure, or like applying for the SBA, you have $50K, $100K. Okay, now I'm gonna put this. I found this $1 million deal. I'm gonna buy it. What did that look like? And in your case, like how did that look like there too?
Yeah. So for me, what was important is that I needed to find banks that were willing to work with me, right? Because the thing is, every bank out there, they're all over the place. There's no like one rule for like if you have this criteria, every bank is going to work with you. Like, yeah, you can be more prepared to where more banks are going to work with you, but just think about it like this. The more buttoned up your finances are, right? And the more you fit the criteria of someone who should be buying that specific business, the easier it's going to be, right? So it's almost to the point where they want you to have already done it before, right? And have tons of extra capital to where you don't even need to do the deal. That's who the bank is looking for. The bank is looking for someone who doesn't need their money, right? They're looking to give out the money to someone who's sitting, I've got $10 million in the bank from my family, and I just need to invest, $50K, and I need you guys to give me a loan of $1 million, but don't worry, I've got $20 million. They're ready to go. So like that's who they're looking for, right? That's their go-to, clientele. So you got to get past all those banks because they're just not going to work with you. I mean, if you only have that 50 or 100K startup capital, you got to get a little crafty with it. So you got to call the banks who aren't big. They don't have big names. They don't have tons of clientele because they're going to be more willing to work with you. So as long as you have the cash and good credit and you can write a story around why you're able to operate this specific business, because most of the time you're not going to buy a business that you've operated before, right? You're just buying something that seems like a good opportunity. I bought a mechanic shop, like a European auto repair shop. They're working on Lamborghini, Ferrari, Porsche. I don't know anything about fixing those cars, right?
So putting a story together to pitch that's very important, right? So okay.
So I had to figure out to tell the bank exactly like how are you going to like convince them to give you the money, right? And so what I said is like I just used it. I was in the military, right? And so when I was in the military, I was a mechanic technically, but I was a mechanic on C-17 aircrafts. So and so I just told them, I was a mechanic in the military, right? And they didn't ask me any more questions. Okay, he was a mechanic. They just don't know I was working on airplanes and not Ferraris,
Okay.
So that's kind of how it went.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so you find the bank that's gonna give it to you, the loan. You have the 50K. Then you buy the business.
Yeah.
So first of all, how did you find that business? And then once you bought it, how did what was it making coming in? What did you go in there and do? Okay, I'm gonna make these changes, or you're just straight up buying income and like doing maybe a small tweak. I don't know how what does that look like once you buy it too? Like once now you're the owner. Now what are you doing?
Yeah. So, all right. So let's say you finally find a bank who's willing to work with you. They say, okay, great. The numbers make sense. We can give you a loan for the amount you're asking. Okay, great. That whole process could take anywhere from 3 to 6 months, like to go through all the processing. Like I think the average SBA, they say they take 90 days, but usually there's just so many hiccups along the way. Like just expect a 6-month timeline to get through the full process. Once you've done that though, and then you walk in as day one as like the business owner, it's really important for you to understand, most of the time, your biggest issue and also your biggest benefit is that you're adopting these employees who come with the business. And so the main thing that you want to focus on is making sure that your employees want to stay working for you and the transition is very smooth, because the more hiccups you have, you'd be surprised. These people are willing to walk away pretty easily from the business, right? Because for some reason, especially in the blue collar space, like if you buy a blue collar business, they're just so worried about job security, but they're also so like willing to leave, like so willing to walk, right? Oh, there's changes. I don't like change. I'm leaving, So then they change. That's so funny to me that they're so afraid of change that they quit their job to go find a new one where everything's completely different because they didn't want you to change the system. But that's just the mindset of those type of that class of workers. And so you want to come in and have like a smooth transition. But I'll be honest with you, since I bought my first business, I've kind of changed my tune on that. I think you should get in there if you know what you're doing. Just like
rip it out.
Yeah, just like
interesting.
Like don't waste any time. Yeah, just get in there. Yeah, exactly. Get in there and like fire people and just get to straight changes. Like now, there's people who've made tons more money than me who would give you the exact opposite advice. Okay. I think at the end of the day, it comes from like it comes from the heart of the entrepreneur, right? And so like if you're someone who's hungry and you think you know what you're doing, and at the same time, you got to like, you're taking a risk on yourself. You're taking a bet on who you are. If you've got this far, like you might as well just send it, right? And so like, if you don't believe me, well, Elon Musk did that for Twitter, right? So, there are other people out there who are doing it at the highest scale, and that's what I'd recommend, because every day you waste keeping the bad employees, not operating systems efficiently, you're just losing potential. Like there's tons of money you could have made, and since you didn't make it, you lost all that potential. So it's better to just get in there and start making changes day one and just, hey, listen, we're going to change. You don't want to talk about growth. You don't want to tell your employees, hey, we're focused on growth. Your employees don't care about growth.
Yeah, they just want their job
They just want their job secured, right? So don't get in there and be like, yeah, we're going to grow this company. Growth. That was one of my mistakes when I first got in there. I was talking about growth, right? But I thought, hey, they're going to make more money.
They're going to be on board.
Exactly. No, they just thought like more work, essentially. That's what growth means to them. So now I don't get in there and I talk about growth. What I get in there do now is I'll talk about optimization. Right? I'm going to make your guys' lives easier, right? I'm going to make your workload a lot lighter, right? You just need to work with me. You come on board to my team. I'm going to make your jobs more efficient, more easy. All the dumb things that you guys were doing before, I'm going to get rid of all those things, right? So you can come in and enjoy your work because you're only focused on the tasks that pay.
So what does it look like? So you came in, so let's say, okay, so this business that you bought, the auto repair shop, you came in. Now, let's say you're in private equity, you're going to go into an avenue. Let's say maybe you're not super, familiar with it, whatnot. How do you, where do you look to say, okay, this is I can cut it right away, or this thing I can make it more efficient. I can automate this at this point, and these are my stars. I got to keep them. They know that mechanics. So what did that look like? Like when you came in, how do you know what to cut and do that in a specific industry? Say you're going to do it on a different business too. Yeah. Are there specific things that kind of resonate with each and every business in some sort of way, at least, where you can say, okay, this is the formula, and we kind of copy and paste on it,
Yeah, so this is where we get in like the technical sauce, what I call it, right? This is where we get to like the technicals of how you really operate a business at the highest levels. And so what you want to do essentially is figure out how the company operates. You need to go into the company and see, how does money travel through this business from customers' hands, right? to bank account. What is that path, right? How does money change hands? And then at the same time, I also want to look at operations. How do we, let's say we manufacture water bottles. How do we make sure that this widget performs, right? So we want to track the creation of the water bottle from A to Z. Every single step of the process, from getting the plastic, molding the plastic, to shipping it out, and then getting paid for it. You want to track every single step. And so what you want to look for is bottlenecks in the business, right? You're looking for things that are slowing down the process or making things more harder. Now, on top of that, for example, if you're collecting money, the rule is that you want to make it as easy as possible to get money out of the customer's bank account into yours, right? So, for example, if you're running a business, you shouldn't say like, oh yeah, so our process for you to pay us is going to be, you write us a letter, we confirm the letter, we send the letter back to you, then you mail us a check, and then 5 weeks later, we collect the money in the account, right? That's like the worst possible way. The easiest way is, I'm going to send you a link, put your card on it, and then press pay. Right. That's the fastest way to get it done. I'm going to send you an invoice, put your credit card information, and collect payment. That's like the most optimized. So wherever you're at, get it to there. Right. Get it to that. And then it's the same for the process of each of the processes or steps, right, in creating the product or service. So whatever it is that you need to do to make it faster, to create the water bottle, for example, you need to cut down those steps and processes by as many factors as you can. And so what you do is you want to look at each of the steps and then be meticulous and say, how can I shorten the time? How can I make this better? And that could be anything from being more creative around a subject all the way to something physical. Like, hey, I noticed that we have, 50 pounds of trash that needs to be taken from the machine and thrown into the trash. But the trash can is on the other side of the factory. So we should move the machine next to the trash can so our employees don't have to take 50 trips across the whole factory in order to be able to, dump this waste. Right. So now you're making the process more efficient because you just saved 50,000 steps at the end of the year that they didn't have to take. Right. And that's something physical you can do by just optimizing the machinery and the equipment, right, and increasing throughput. And then there's one more level to that, which is I like to go to each of my employees and I like to have a one-on-one conversation with them, and I'll bring them into the office and I'll say, okay, what's the smartest thing we're doing right now as a company, right? What's something as a company that you love, right? Let's hear it. Okay, they really like that, they work 4 days a week instead of 5. Okay, that's something to note. Or they really like that the culture is very positive. Okay, great. So these are all things I like. And I say, okay, what's the dumbest thing we're doing as a company right now, right? And then I want them to give me their feedback because this is going to be the keys right here. Like maybe every employee, they're not all going to hit the nail on the head and they're, I think we should have, hot dog Fridays again. And we're not getting our desserts or whatever. Like, okay, that's the information. Will know but a couple of them, things. And you're going to hear it a lot. Yeah. Like, ever since we let go of Joe, now no one's handling this specific task. Right. And then you're going to hear, we needed Joe back. Where's Joe? We need another Joe to replace him. Then it's going to tell me, okay, who was Joe? Why do we need to replace him? What can he do, right? Or what did he do that we need to bring back into the company, right? And sometimes it's that the guys are just looking to offload the work to somebody else, or sometimes it's a legitimate concern where you can go in there and make that change. Okay, let's figure out how to get Joe back into the office and blah, 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 right? And the employees will tell you that. And so don't go in there acting like you're a big shot who's got it all figured out. I go in there, hey, listen, I know nothing, right? I just want to learn. So why don't you go and tell me, right, what it is that you think this company could do better. And they're going to tell you right there, and then just start making those changes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Now, let's say when you're, first of all, I want to talk about the market opportunity in private equity. So like, I'm assuming there's a lot, because it's a pretty niche thing like to do. There's a lot, I would assume, a lot of like these old companies that don't have these efficiencies put into place, especially right now, and especially with, the introduction of all this new stuff that you can do. Is for you specifically, now you've done this one business. Now is there specific like criteria that a business needs to have to be interesting? Or there's certain industries you avoid completely? Like, hey, this I'm not going to do. If it's not making this amount of money, I'm not going to do it. And I know it changed from when you first started to now where you're looking now. Yeah. So I want to get into that too. I want to know what you're looking at now, just to kind of see, how you're thinking about how to analyze, this industry, I'm going to stay away from it. It needs to be making this much, and kind of how you started and now what you're looking at now.
Sure. So what I realize is that when it comes down to companies, the bigger the better. right? And so if you can go take down a behemoth on your first deal, I recommend it. Like, don't go out there saying, oh, I only got 20K in my bank account. I can only go for a small deal, right? Like, figure out a way to either raise more money or save more money or be more creative in the way that you structure an opportunity to where you can go buy a $50 million opportunity instead of a $20,000 opportunity, right? Because the bigger the opportunity, one, you're going to be more motivated, right? You're going to be more motivated to get it done. It's the same amount of work, whether you're buying a $1 million company or a $10 million company, you have to do the same amount of work. And then another thing is these specific businesses, that the larger that they are, the less risk that they carry.
More
because
stable
they're more
income.
stable. Yeah, they've been around for a longer time. They have income that's been proven over years and years and years. And they also make enough money to where you can hire good talent. If you're spitting off, 20 to 30% of profit margin every year from a $10 million deal, that's tons of cash where you can now go and reinvest into the business. But if you're working on a business that's got slim profit margins and is really small, you can't afford to hire good talent, right? So I'll give you an example. My mom, she had a franchise when I grew up. It was called Juice It Up, right? It's like a Jamba Juice version in California, right? And so this company made her like $40,000 a year in profit, right? The average wage of a manager, right, for a job like this would have been $40,000, right? So in order for my mom to work her way out of the business,
eliminate all the profit,
right, and focus on just growing the company, she would have had to eliminate all the profit from the business, literally every penny to go hire a manager. So essentially, she would have ran a company for nothing, and so it could never get to a point where she can work her way out of it because the company just wasn't big enough. And now I've thought of a strategy to get around that. If she would have bought 10 more shops, right? If she would have had like 10 more locations, then maybe if each location's paying $1,000 a month towards the manager, then it makes sense.
Maybe you have a regional manager now.
Exactly, a regional manager. They manage multiple locations. That's the strategy.
Interesting.
But I wouldn't start there. I would just go bigger. I'd just skip all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me. I know you went to this conference too. I want to know like how, because like this is. You can get your foot in the door, and I want to talk about where you see yourself going to, and like kind of how like what you see yourself doing, and like how you're angling it in that way. I know. So you went to this conference, McGuire Woods, right?
Yeah.
And these guys are doing huge checks and things like that.
Huge checks.
So tell me about like scaling in this industry, or like how, I mean, it obviously depends on the person, right? If someone wants to buy one business and just run it and make good money and that's it. But what does it look like to go like bigger? Is it just like pretty much the same thing, just bigger numbers? I mean, unless, you're doing like some sort of roll up strategy, like what do you see yourself doing next? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you see yourself moving next,
Well, essentially, a lot of the deals that I've been working on, I've done them without any help, and so I've realized that the more creative that you want to be to get a deal financed, the more things that have to go right. And this is like what I tell a lot of my students, right, that come and learn from me on how to buy businesses. I tell them the most direct way for you to buy a business is don't get fancy with it. Get the get the $100,000 of cash, whether you got to borrow it from your grandma or save up working a 9-to-5 for a couple of years. The most direct way is don't get fancy. Don't look for 100% seller finance. Don't try to get creative with it. Just go out there and save the money. And then it's like going to a car dealership. Yes, it's possible. If you go to 1,000 car dealerships, right, and you talk to every owner of that car dealership, I'm sure one of them is going to tell you, I'll give you this Mercedes for 0% down, right? And you can, get creative with it and you just pay me monthly.
Right.
Maybe, who knows, that maybe they're going out of business, or maybe you caught him at a good time. He's just trying to be helpful. I'm sure it's possible.
Yeah.
But the most direct way to go buy a Mercedes, right, is to save up the 20, 30, 40, 50 grand and walk in there, put your down payment, and then finance the rest. Get good credit and finance the rest. So it's the same with buying a business. Like, there's a lot of people out there trying to get fancy with the opportunity, but the most direct way was just like me. I got $50K in my pocket, and I went out there and bought a $1.5 million business. So that's what I recommend. But as time goes on and you want to get into bigger deals, what I realize is that I'm still going to go my creative route because I think there's a lot of opportunity and potential for me not to bring in investors. I want to keep control of the deals, right? I don't want to start splitting where I only own 80% or 50% or whatever. I want to make the money, right? But now I'm getting a group of investors behind me. So if for any reason the deal can't go through with the way I originally structured it, I now have a backup opportunity where it doesn't need to be as creative because I have cash to bring to the table. And so what this is it's kind of like a secondary option where if the deal falls through on the first opportunity, being creative with it, well, now it's better to take 10% of a business than 0, right?
Right.
So now it's like, okay, if I can't get the deal done creatively, then I'll bring in extra finance.
Okay.
And so now I'm raising capital for certain things.
Okay. Now, my next question, I'm interested in this too, and I want to get your opinion on it. What do you see within the next few years with, okay, so like automation's a big story. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Especially because you have better pulse, I feel like, because you're in the business world, kind of, okay, these things can be gone. Like a lot of these, like, let's say law firms or like just admin work, a lot of people with jobs right now are on their way out. I mean, really, like within like the next 5 years, like there's a lot. So my question is, I'm curious, like,
am I worried?
Well, worried, but I was like, what's your opinion? Like, do you see this impacting jobs? Like, what do you see? Do you see it impacting jobs? What do you think about it? And like, how does one take advantage of this huge change and opportunity, I'd say? And like, how do you see things moving in the next few years in this sense where it's like jobs are going away pretty much?
Yeah. Well, one, I'm not, like, I think AI has great potential. I think AI will change the world. I just don't know in what way yet. I haven't seen AI prove itself yet. And let me give you a history lesson. Essentially, over the years, if you look at markets, we've seen this cycle happen multiple times. And so you just kind of have to be open to it to realize that usually the first movers and the first hype cycle never is profitable. And it's never as crazy as people make it out to be. And there's tons of time in between before the market catches up to the opportunity. And so what I mean by that is that I think it was around the 1930s, there was a huge boom around cars, the big boom and bust, right? There was a bubble. And then 30 years later in the 1960s, everyone was investing in airlines. And as you know, till this day, airline companies are not profitable, right? They're the worst investment ever. Like governments have to subsidize them. And that's just how it goes. And so it was another boom with airlines. And then in the 90s, there was the dot-com bubble, right? Right. And so exactly the same play. And then I think crypto is going to have the same route, and now AI. And so what always happens is that you can just look at history. Yeah, it sounds different. AI is nothing like automobiles, but it's technology, right? It's the same idea. It's that we get a new technology and then everyone rushes to go invest in the opportunity, thinking they're going to become trillionaires overnight. And then all these companies get overinflated. They're not really worth that. And then the market realizes that there's going to be more time between what the market has first created and what systems actually end up coming out of this process. And so while I do think AI is going to play a big role, one, I'm not worried because the type of businesses I buy are anti-inflation, right? Like if I'm fixing cars today, unless Elon Musk drops his robot, right, that's going to fix cars in the next year or whatever, like I'm not worried about that at all.
That was my question. Was like, what industries and are you having that in mind? Where like, because long term, like I like to think long term. So I'm like, okay, what businesses are going to benefit from this and like are not going to be affected as much or take advantage of this?
Physical products, real world, tangible assets. Like if you're building something. If you're building something physical, you're safe, right? Whether that's you're building housing, whether you're building a factory, whether you're producing, manufacturing products, whatever it is, if it's physical, you're safe. If anything, AI is going to help you because once you have it, now you can have better equipment, better robotic machinery, better systems. It's going to make your life a lot easier. But if you're anything where you're on the information side, like I think that lawyers are going to have a big problem soon. I think that accountants are going to have a big problem soon. I think that if you're anything in software, right? Because at some point you don't need, if you just have a brain that can just know everything about your business, do you really need that point of sale system that's going to, tell you, what to charge the customer and send the invoice and all this software stuff? No, you can just tell the AI, hey, this customer just came in. This is what they got. Write me a ticket and then send it to them and collect the money. That's all the stuff that's going to go away. And so I'd be very wary of investing in software right now unless there's some sort of moat around it, or if you think there's a runway. Because sometimes, I'll be honest, I like to take a gamble sometimes.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you something.
Sure.
Essentially, there is a timeline on businesses where you can take a bet, right? You can bet on how profitable this business will be over a certain amount of time. And I got this from the guys on Wall Street. So this isn't just me making it up. Essentially, what they do is when they want to determine how much value comes from a business, what they do is they say, okay, over the next 20 years, how much money will this business make me? And then they'll do the calculation, right? And they'll work backwards from there. Okay, over the next 20 years, this will make me $10 million. Is it worth $2 million today? Well, if I pay $2 million today and I make $10 million over the next 20 years, right? That's a 5x return. That's worth it. So they calculate based off future returns, how much money will this make me in the future to tell me if this is a good buy today, right? And so I do that essentially with buying small businesses. Is I say, okay, is this industry going to make me money for the lifeline, right, of the loan? Because when you buy an SBA loan, you have a 10-year debt cycle.
Okay.
And so you have to ask yourself, all right, is whatever industry I'm getting in, right, going to last me the full 10 years? And if the answer is yes, then you've decreased your risk, right? And there's another trick you could do, which is when you're buying a business, you're buying it for a multiple of profit, right? So let's say a business makes $1 million a year. You could buy it for $2 million. It's a 2x multiple, right? Let's just say, for example. And so what that means is that you bought this business for the valuation of 2 years worth of profit. And so while you did take out maybe a 10-year loan, 10 years of amortization.
You can pay this thing off in like 2 years.
Exactly. Money right there. Exactly. So then the real question is, this business has been around for 10, 20 years. Can you profitably manage it for 2? That's your risk. That's your risk factor. So if I bought it for a 2x multiple or 3 or 4x multiple, right? Can I manage this business profitably at the same rate without any growth? Because growth is even faster. But if I can manage it without any growth for the next 2 to 4 years, I can literally pay off all the debt and then be debt free. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to get profit on the other side. Maybe the business crashes after 2 to 4 years. But it's just a calculation that I like to run to say, okay, does this business make sense? And if it's been around for 20 years, I think I can manage to run it profitably for 2 more. Right. And so I will take more risk than the average person because I see the opportunity for what it really is. While other people are like, well, I don't know about in 10 years if AI is going to make a change. Well, I mean, that's how you can run your calculation, but I can just look at the debt.
Well, every business has risk. Like every opportunity has risk. As long as you're freaking pricing that in and at least acknowledging it or planning, for it. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. That's very awesome, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's super cool. Like the longer time you spend in the space, the more of those like small tricks you figure out, and then you like get an edge in the market. But the only way to get to that level is that you have to keep studying. Yeah. Right. You have to keep studying. You have to know more than everybody else because like the average person's thinking, okay, I've got 10 years to pay off my debt, and based off like if you really inherently understand the numbers. You can see that there's a different story at play, right? Then you can start taking a little bit more risk, and then that's where you get your edge in the market because you can go into waters that seem a little bit choppy, but you know how to navigate them, right? And so that's where your opportunity lies, is finding arbitrage in the market, finding opportunities where no one else is looking. Right. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And then your strategy is not necessarily starting something from nothing. Like
never.
That's a lot more risky, I would say,
For
right?
sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially these companies, and this is what goes into the AI stuff where they're raising tons and tons of money on little, no revenue, whatever. But that's a whole different story. This is buying an operating business that exists.
Yeah.
And
buy your way to the top.
Okay.
That's my theory. Yeah. That's my motto.
Like
it's like buy your way to the top. Like skip all the levels, skip all the work, skip all the problems, get right to owning and operating and cash flowing businesses like today. And that's the best opportunity. Just buy your way to the top.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Any last pieces of advice to people that are interested in this industry or thinking about it? Anything that, any insights there for someone finding out about this?
Yeah, for sure. I think, again, I want to double down on the information side. If I could give you a timeline, and there's 2 factors, like 2 mindsets that you have to have. Like I studied for 5 years straight in this specific niche for 2 to 3 hours every single day on this specific topic. On buying businesses, right?
Okay,
on buying businesses, right? Or even operating businesses or growing businesses or understanding valuation, things like that. You have to get to that 10,000 hours, right, as fast as possible, right? So that 10,000 hours is what makes you a master. If you want to become rich in life, just become a master at something. Choose anything. Any route will get you to the money, but choose something that you are motivated by, right? And then work hard, right, to study your ass off to get to that 10,000 hours as fast as possible, and then become a master in it. Because once you're a master, people will pay you for that information, right? And then you'll also have the knowledge to do it for yourself. So not only are you doing it for yourself, but also people want the information from you. So like you become more valuable to the market, and also you're making the market a better place. And so put in that time. There's no way around it. You have to put in that amount of hours. It's the only way. And yeah, for sure. There was another thing. Shoot. Sometimes I have so many trains of thought that there's so much information in my head, bro.
Okay, we can keep going.
What was it? There's put in the time, and then the study, the information. You can also skip a lot of levels by paying for a lot of information.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
That's a big one for me. Is that what I realized? Like whenever, if I buy a business in a new industry, I'll go out there and I'll find a coach in that industry who's been doing it for 40 years, and I'm just I'll download your whole brain.
You know what? That's such a big
use
piece.
It. Yeah.
That I guess people that aren't in the game, they don't know.
Yeah.
But anyone in the game is like, bro, that's so obvious. Like that's so important. To be around people that are just pay, dude, to get in there, and now all these things that you wouldn't otherwise have known. Huge. I like that a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you did that in your specific. And when you buy a business in that specific industry, you did that too. Like for the car mechanic shop, you sought someone who was a specialist in that industry.
Yeah, right. Because it doesn't matter how good you are at business. Someone else has been running that operation for a long time in this specific space. So you can surpass them, but the first thing you should do is go learn from them. So go learn from the best in the industry, learn everything that they know, and then now take everything that you've learned, right, and then go apply it to yourself. And that's literally how you become unique in the market, is because no one's gonna have the same experiences as you, right? And it's like how to be better at content or how to be better at business. It's all the same. You have your own life experiences that make you unique. Right? And then you go learn from 10 other people, and then you have your own life experiences plus 10 unique individuals who gave you information and mentorship and opportunity, and you combine that all, and now you have an even more unique standpoint because you know something about the market that the rest of people don't, because they don't have your unique experience. So everyone can do that, right? Anyone can. I can take some information about real estate, and I can take some information about stocks, and then I can use that and say, wait. Because that's what I've done. I invested in stocks, I bought real estate, and I took that information. I said, okay, how can I take this same information and use the frameworks that I've already learned about different industries, right, and apply it to buying businesses? That's called lateral thinking, right? And so when you do is you can start to take information from other industries and other categories of thought and apply them. Right. And so that's why it's important for you to study a lot of things at once, because you actually get more bandwidth, not less, the more that you study. And so you could pull from different things. And so you could be the world's greatest video game creator and the world's greatest pianist. And if you combine the two, you create a product that the world has never seen.
Right.
Exactly.
Interesting. I love that, man.
Yeah.
Dude, well, it was great having you, man. I think this was definitely good. I think a lot of people don't know about this as much. It's not as popular as real estate, other things, stocks.
That real estate's dead.
Dead, right? Saturated. So.
Let's get into buying businesses, man.
Buying businesses is something not a lot of people know how to do. I really like what you do. It's very interesting to me. So
yeah, bro. I mean, the great opportunity is I know you're you came from real estate. You've seen that. If you just have the hustle, then you could put deals together, and that's a way oversaturated market. So I'm super excited to see what you do with this space, because if you just take all the work that you've already done in a much, much harder industry, you're going to see that it's almost overnight success to applying it towards buying businesses, because the market isn't as saturated. It doesn't have players in the game who are willing to put in that level of work. And so if you've already done it in an industry that's, I like to say probably 10 times harder, because it's just less deals. Everyone knows what the value of real estate is today. You can go online, go on Zillow, right? Just look up, go on Redfin, and you know the property prices.
Now my biggest thing that I think about is obviously the split focus thing, because I know what it takes to get good at anything.
Yeah,
you gotta
for sure.
Fucking go hard like crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I'm trying to think of I want to keep doing real estate. I have momentum going. I want to do it, but I also see my company in general being an investment firm that has a real estate branch and has a private equity branch. I want that to happen. I want that to happen.
For sure.
So I'm thinking, how do I do this the best fucking way and not mess anything up. Like, and like obviously, Elon, he do Tesla, SpaceX. I mean, I think it's 100% possible. That's just what I think about. It's like, how do I do this the best way? I need a team. That's what I know.
Yeah,
that's
for
what
sure.
I know.
Yeah, you can't do it alone. Yeah, the bigger that your team is, and the more dialed, right, the team that you have behind you is, and like the easier it is to get big work done. And so like the faster that you can hire like A-level talent, the easier it's going to be for you. But again, I would say that like the best CEOs in the world, what they're the best at is decision making and asset allocation. Okay, so if you just keep that in mind, you want to be one of the best CEOs in the world. How good are you, right, at allocating the assets of your business? And so if you have $100,000, what makes more sense? That you go put that into a real estate deal, it takes the same amount of time as buying a business, but at the end you get, what is that, 20% return, 20K every year,
right.
Or you take that 100K and then turn it into $1 million acquisition, and then you get paid $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 at the end of the year. It's a night and day difference. And so if you're going to allocate the capital, right, and you're going to say, I'm a CEO who makes wise decisions, right, my decision making is top tier, and I know how to allocate this capital correctly, you're going to choose to go buy the business every time. And when you have the extra cash and you need to park it somewhere safely, then I'd go back to real estate because you know the game. But in terms of like getting faster cash flow, what makes sense is always going to be the one that has higher returns, right? Returns not just on money, but returns on your time. For the same amount of effort, right, the gains that you'll get at the end of it are exponential compared to the real estate market.
Let me ask you this: so in my position, like if I were to buy a business, would you recommend having some sort of internal team member outside of the business team members? Someone's like, hey, this is my operation manager, and when I buy a business, he's gonna be involved in some way. On that level, like what do you see there as far as team building in that?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll give you an example. I'll give you two examples. I have one person that I have in mind in bringing to my private equity company, and one person who already works for my private equity company. And so how it works is that I have a VA.
Okay. Yep.
$1,000 a month. Speaks perfect English. Yep. Got a degree in America, but lives in Panama. Right. That's my VA that I found. She's great. Yeah. And so she essentially runs the day-to-day operations of my private equity company. She's reaching out to brokers. She's collecting data. She's setting up the financials for me. She's booking my appointments. She's making me meet up with the people. She knows what data I need to collect. And she's also making sure that my deal flow and operations is all coming in the way that I need it. So all I do is respond to my text from her, tell her any tasks that I need to get done. And then when she lets me know, hey, you have a meeting tomorrow with the business owner, I have no idea who the business owner is, and she gives me a brief. She'll send me a document, one pager that says, this is who they are, this is how much they're worth, this is what we negotiated the price for, this is like what you need to know about the business. And then I just hop on the call. That's my life. I just hop on the call, and that's like cool. That's the deal. And so I have her for the company because she essentially takes away all of the you want to stay working on the highest leverage tasks. Yeah. That's where your most value is going to come from. So if you're the one signing NDAs, for example, if you want to look at a business, you need to sign an NDA to look at the financials. Yeah. Does it make sense for you to spend all your days like writing your name, signing an NDA? Like, no, that's not a high value task. What you should be doing is making a valuation on a business and sending offers out, right? And I don't even send the offers. I just tell her, I have like a quick, I'll value a business in like 15 minutes, and I'll just tell her like $30 million purchase price. Right. With seller note, 5% interest.
If they come back, now we're talking. If they come back,
exactly. If they agree to the LOI, then I'll get on the phone. I'll get more involved. Okay. But I'll just 30 million purchase price, 5% or 15% seller note at 5% interest over 20-year amortization with a 5-year balloon. Boom, just like that, and then she'll write it up. She'll make a whole document about what that is. But I just send her that one-liner of everything that I'm offering for the business, and then she'll go out and do the work. And now the second person that I'm looking to bring on is a friend of mine, longtime friend. I know he's very smart and intelligent, and I know that he's a problem solver. And so what I'd like for him to do in the business is that I'm going to start building an off-market system where I can have tons and tons more lead flow. And so I'm looking to put someone in charge of that full time because right now my assistant, she's good at the operational side and making sure that small tasks get handled. Sure. But as far as building a crazy off-market machine, you need someone who's got the technical skill. And so I'm looking to bring on, he's a data scientist as well. So that kind of helps, right? And And so I'm going to show him what I've learned, and then I'm just going to tell him, go crazy with it, right? And give him like either profit share in the businesses that he helps me acquire, or just put him on salary, right? And so what's great about this is that between the two of them, right, that's really the only, like, between, like, if the three of us in a company, like, we can go to $1 billion. And the reason why is because each opportunity that we come across, he brings the deals in, she manages them through the sales pipeline, essentially, and then I close the deal, right?
And these are 30 million. I mean, these aren't, you know what I mean, at that point now, so it makes so much sense, because you can run that same operation looking at smaller deals, but guess what? It's the same person, assistant, doing this work, but now you're targeting bigger stuff. I mean, that's really, that's massive.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why not go for the bigger deals? And as you could tell, like, you don't need a huge team to get this done. I don't have a crazy office, penthouse, and 50 employees. Now, the goal would be one day, maybe I will have that many employees if I'm doing something huge, and I need that many people. But for right now, like, I just need deal flow, and then I need someone to make sure the operations are good, and then I'll do the rest. And then once I buy the company, I don't even operate it. Like, when you're buying bigger companies, I'll hire a CEO. So the CEO will run the company. And so now it's just find the deal, right? Close it, put a CEO. Find a deal, close it, put a CEO. And then just make sure my CEOs are hitting their metrics and that they have a good pay package to keep them motivated to grow the company. That's it. That's the system.
I liked it.
Yeah.
Putting a team in place. Assistance necessary, just like what you were saying, this VA.
Yeah.
Because right now, I run solo still. Like, I run solo, everything.
Sure. Yeah.
So I already know. I was like, okay, I got to at least have, now I got to start looking at building some sort of team. So I think assistance, the first one step, like VA.
Yeah.
Right? So I like that a lot, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, once you build the system, like, it's going to work very well for you, right? You just got to, like, get over the hump of building it, because it kind of takes, you know what I mean? You got to find the VA, you got to train them up, you got to teach them the softwares and stuff like that. But it's going to be night and day difference when you just wake up and you get a text and it's like,
right. If I just have appointments or whatever already mapped out, that's shit. I mean, that saves 80% of the acquisition process.
Right, exactly. So
massive, man.
There's really nothing, like, there's no smarter way to get it done, and this is also what the guys at the top levels are doing. Like, they may have their own special, unique software to get it all done, but they're not using any special data that we can't get our hands on, right? And you could always be, like, more scrappy when you're smaller. So,
dude, I love it. A lot of gems. I like it. I like the business model.
Yeah, bro.
Dude, that's awesome, man.
Cool.
Dude, I appreciate you coming out here, man. I appreciate it, man. I love talking to you, man. So,
no, I appreciate you coming out here. You came all the way down so we could rip this pod. I appreciate that, bro. So whenever we want to do it again, we can rip more, do like a part 2 or something, get more technical or whatever. But hopefully, the audience is getting some good information to, like, make some decisions on kind of the process and how they want to get it done.
For sure.
Cool.
I love it. Bro, thanks. All right. Hell yeah.